Hello, folks. This is Mr. Wells, your driver education instructor. And today we are looking at lesson number 9, adverse driving conditions. And we can see from the picture one of the things that we're going to be dealing with. So here's what we're thinking here. Driving in the dark, driving with sun glare, wet leaves, downed power lines, flooding, ice, snow, evasive maneuvers, and breakdowns. So let's get right to it. Did you know, according to the National Safety Council and AAA, traffic death rates are up to 3 times greater at night than during the day? There are plenty of reasons for that, as we are aware of. Driving at night is more dangerous because 90% of a driver's reaction depends on vision, right? 90% of what we do is taken in through our vision, and it's impaired in the dark, right? Take a look at this picture here. What are your eyes naturally attracted to, right? It's usually to the light. And when that happens, we miss out on a lot of information. This is called the moth syndrome. Okay, visual. What part of your vision is impaired by darkness? Visual skills such as depth perception, color recognition, and peripheral vision are limited at night. Can you identify the color of these cars, for example? Look at them. Which ones are closer and which ones are farther away? And can you see pavement markings ahead? I can't. Okay, and as we get older, I just saw this thing. Our pupils become 1/3. They do, I don't know, and our pupils basically can enlarge and contract. And I think we lose up to 1/3 of that ability as we get older. So this explains, there's also other stuff like glaucoma, which explains why older people have such a difficult time driving at night. Here's the scenario. Imagine this. You're on a 2-way road at night. You have noticed oncoming traffic lights are very bright. How do you deal with this? What should you do? Okay. Well, we definitely don't want to stare into the lights of oncoming vehicles. Rather, you need to, I don't know how that happened. You need to focus your eyes on the white edge of the road, right? This is how we look. We look down at the white edge of the road. We're going to probably have to take down our speed some in order to manage doing this, but we take our speed down and we look at the right side of the road at the white line, and that's kind of our guide as these bright lights are coming into our view, okay? Okay, here's another scenario for you. You're driving late after a big event and you have a long way to go and you're getting tired. This is called driving fatigue. How do you combat driving fatigue? Turn on the radio, for example. Roll down the windows for some fresh, cool air. Talk with your passengers or even with yourself. Stop periodically and stretch and do exercises to get your heart rate up. And drink caffeine and sugar. It won't last very long, though. Be aware of that. What you don't want to do, don't call on a handheld, text, or drive. Browse social media or drive faster. These are things we do not do to kind of wake ourselves up. Okay? Exit the road and find a safe place to rest your eyes and call someone and let them know. Okay, AAA, we know AAA. AAA testing found that at speeds greater than 45 miles per hour, headlights may fail to safely illuminate unlit roadways, right? So let's take a look at this. We have perceive, react, brake, and stop. So if we're traveling 55 miles per hour, it's going to take us 492 feet to stop at night, okay? But our low beam range is only 400 feet. So there's 92 feet here that is total darkness. Okay, here we go. Please check your lights before driving in the dark. Check your lights to make sure they are working. You can do this by flashing them on and off a wall or a garage door and storefront window, or have someone step out and look at them to make sure they are working properly. In fact, you can do this yourself too. You can step out of your own car and check them out. Okay, driving at night, special considerations. Well, to avoid being blinded by oncoming high beams, look ahead and towards the right shoulder of the road, using your side vision to stay on track. Okay, look for that white, edge of the road line. Use your high beam lights when driving in rural areas and on open highways away from urban and metropolitan areas. Okay, you're supposed to use your high beams. You're expected to. And it's one of those things where right now, as you're learning to drive, we are expecting you to get used to being able to flick them on without looking down, okay? We definitely want you to be able to do that before you're out on the road by yourselves. Okay, if you're driving with your high beam lights on, you must dim them at least 500 feet before any oncoming vehicle, so you don't blind them and you don't blind the oncoming vehicle. Basically, what I do is whenever I see an oncoming vehicle coming, I dim them. I think that's what most people do. And here's a little hint. If you have an oncoming vehicle who has not dimmed their high beams, flick your high beams at them, and they almost always will dim them after that. Also, if you see that you're coming around a blind turn and you can see that the vehicle that's coming has their high beams on because they're pointing into the woods and they're very high, flick your high beams at them before you even see them around that turn. 9 times out of 10, they will notice you and they will dim their high beams and you dim yours. Okay. Remember to use your low beams if you are within 200 to 300 feet of the vehicle you are following to avoid blinding the driver ahead of you. That is very important. Okay. When you're following another vehicle, do not use your high beams. Dashboard lights. Okay. Why is it important to adjust your dashboard lights? Your dashboard lights, if they're too bright, are going to take away from your ability to see out into the darkness, right? If they're too dim, you can't see what, that's critical information from your dashboard. Okay, avoid using your interior lights when you're driving, or do so in areas of little to no traffic so that your eyes have time to readjust to the dark. We should not have this dome light on or your interior lights on while you're driving. Okay, this is a no-no. Not supposed to do it. Your passengers can flick it on, briefly to look for some object or whatever it is they're trying to do, but you should not be driving around with your interior lights on. Okay, if you have car trouble at night, pull off to the side of the road as far as you can. Turn on your hazard lights. There's always a risk when getting out of your vehicle, being so close to oncoming traffic. So be very careful and don't linger close to the moving traffic lane. Set out flares or reflective triangles well behind your vehicle to warn drivers of your emergency position off the road. Okay. This is going to be important that you put on your hazards and preferably put out the triangles or flares. Okay. The first thing you need to do is you need to call for help. First of all, family members or 911. You could call 911 if you have a breakdown. Okay. You got to call somebody. Or if you have AAA, call AAA. But my recommendation is you call someone right away and get help on the way before you ever step out of your car. And if it's busy out there, just rely on your hazard lights. Identify, list, and discuss. Special factors for residential streets. Look at this residential street. typical scene where I live, when we have a heavy snowfall, we have cars out in the road. They're parked on the side of the road here, and it really narrows the road, doesn't it? Okay. Okay, so we often have parking problems. We have state of emergency parking, which means that the little blue light pops on here. That means we have to get our cars off the road for the snow plows. We have high snowbanks near driveways, which makes it a real problem for people to see when they're backing out of their driveways. Sometimes it makes it hard for us to see cars coming out of their driveways. Of course, we have slippery intersections. We have all types of intersection, traction issues, right? Salted intersections in winter make for loose gravel in the spring. That's true. And low driving areas such as viaducts can flood, right? Yep. So sometimes if it's a real quick thaw, we also have flooding issues. Okay, clean your sensors. Name the different sensors that we see in this video. Does your car have any of these sensors? What are the bumper sensors for? Okay, we have a backup camera. This lens needs to be cleaned. Bumper sensors, there they are. Yep, our blind spot sensors and rear body panel. (360) view. Okay, so if you're fortunate enough to be driving a car with all these wonderful sensors, you have to make sure that they can work. And the only way to do that is to keep them clean, right, guys? Uh, so obviously one way to keep them clean is to go to the car wash. But we saw that they have sensors that are, behind the car for backing up. We saw that there are some that may be underneath the two side mirrors. We should expect us to have a sensor nowadays on your windshield in front of your rear view mirror, right? And usually there's something in front of you at the in the grill area. So if we keep them clean, they'll work for us. Okay, I'm going to skip the question about what are the bumper sensors for. Okay, sunny days. Glare can reduce visibility in different ways. Okay, let's take a look at our pictures here. Glare can really just even reflect off of stuff like water and snow. Okay, and this really creates real problems when we're driving. Both days are sunny here, but the days are in different seasons. What could you do to minimize the glare of the sun? If you said wear sunglasses, you are absolutely right. Okay, I always have my sunglasses in the car. They're my sunglasses for just about everything, but I leave them in my car. I typically don't bring them inside with me. Sometimes I do, but they are one of those things that always go with me as I'm leaving for my for my day. And I strongly recommend you get a really good pair of sunglasses. Mine are actually they're glacier glasses, to be honest. I went and did an expedition in Alaska on a glacier for 3 weeks, and they kind of have some covering on the sides of them, so I don't have any sun glare even coming in from the sides. They work wonderfully. They're a little dark though, but anyway, it's very important that you find a pair of glasses that you're comfortable with, that really block out all this glare coming in from the sun. You just can't drive properly without reducing this glare with a pair of sunglasses. Okay, please tell your parents. Please take them out. Yep, it'd be nice for you. You get a nice, beautiful pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses. You look cool in them, and they help you drive. Okay, did you know the two most dangerous times of the day to drive are actually sunrise and sunset? You can imagine why. You have the sun coming up out of the trees and so on, blasting right at you and on everything around you, just kind of like this picture right here. Okay, this is a really, really poignant video, guys. And this is one of our experts here. This is about deadly sun glare. Okay, what is the number one cause of death for Americans under the age of 35? What is the number one factor for driving? Is sun glare a driving impairment, like being drunk or being stoned? What does the expert suggest as a way to mitigate sun glare? What is a mistake that the expert mentions regarding pedestrians? Which group of Americans is most vulnerable to traffic fatalities? Which group dies most, in other words? And the last one is, let me move that up. I can't move it out of the way. What is the most dangerous thing the average person will do in his or her lifetime?
Hi, John Lang is your traffic safety and crash expert. I am a crash and safety expert with over 40 years of experience. I had 15 years as a police officer working in the highway safety unit and investigating fatal traffic crashes. Today we're going to go for a ride. It's a nice day for a ride. And since then, I've been also an expert in crash reconstruction, testifying court, in civil litigation, and also on vehicular homicide cases. Traffic crashes are the number one cause of death for all people in the United States under the age of 35. First things first, and that means seatbelt on. The UN has declared it a world crisis, and they just dedicated next decade, 2011 to 2020, as a decade of action. Their goal is to save 5 million lives. And the number one factor for drivers is vision. You have to accumulate information to make decisions as you're driving down the roadway. And remember that traveling at miles per hour, what that represents is feet per second. And crashes don't happen in miles per hour, they happen feet per second. This is the forensic aspects of driver perception and response by Dr. Paul Olson from the University of Michigan. In the introduction, the first line says, under the fundamentals of vision and driving, it says vision is undoubtedly the main source of information necessary to the operation of an automobile. 90% of essential driving related information is acquired visually. We're picking up some glare off of this dashboard, and even though it's dull, it's very bright. The biggest danger in driving is the breakdown in perception and vision, and that would be distraction, impairment, such as alcohol or drugs, or sun glare. Sun glare is an impairment. And now we got two brilliant glare spots affecting both sides of us at the same time. We have glare and stereo. You got to be able to see where you're going. You can't avoid what you don't see. If I had to flip my visor down like this, first of all, you got to take your hand off the wheel and everything. If you do, well, that would have done absolutely nothing for the glare problem we just discussed. The proper sun wear can actually provide you the best chance of dealing with sun glare. It can certainly add seconds to your reaction time, and that could be the difference of a crash, no crash. injuries, no injuries, life and death. I've personally worked in crashes where pedestrians have been run over and killed on nice days. That is a huge problem in traffic crashes, and especially with pedestrians. They believe that because they can see you, that you can see them, and that's not always the case. I also had crashes where, due to sun glare, driver didn't see a deer and didn't take any evasive action whatsoever. So now the deer is flying through the air, 60 miles an hour, into the car coming the opposite direction, went through the windshield and killed the passenger. And his mother was sitting in the front seat passenger seat and died right next to him. So there's sunglasses out there that could have afforded protection and could have yielded enough time to react to avoid the collisions. Children are even more vulnerable, and that could be result in a serious crash where they run out into a street or walk out in the street or ride their bicycle out into the street. Glare off all the parked cars. You notice them, man, I just got a big blast, and it's a good thing I got some sunglasses on. When my kids started driving, that's when I got gray hair. The highest fatality group of all drivers is teenagers. And this is why I think it's especially important for parents to know. You want your child to have the best chance to survive. Listen, you cannot eliminate the risk for the number one cause of death out there, threatening them, but you can greatly minimize the danger to them. Well, one of those ingredients would be the right eyewear and sunglasses. I spent 40 years, a major part of my life, just living in the last 3 seconds of someone else's life. I've been to the scenes and seen the horror out there. I've been into the autopsies. I've been in the ER rooms. I've knocked on the doors and had to tell parents their children are never coming home again. 3 seconds could be the window difference between someone's driving down the road alive and vibrant, healthy as could be. Entire families. 3 seconds later, they're on the side of the road or in the middle of the intersection, they're dead. I know families are still not recovered from losing children that died 30 years ago. And so when you think of that, what's at stake, I can't stress this enough. It is the most dangerous thing the average person will ever do in their entire life. Is drive.
Okay, some very important words from our expert there. So just to recap, our expert has been an expert in the field for 40 years, most of which were as a traffic fatality investigator for the police. Okay, so the number one cause of death for Americans under the age of 35 is traffic fatalities, is driving. Okay. What is the number one factor for driving? It is vision, right? 90% of the entire process is visual. We're so dependent on taking in information visually. Number three is sun glare a driving impairment? Yes, it is. It is. It takes away from your ability to react, right? It impairs your ability to react. Why? As the expert said, if you can't see it, you can't react to it. Okay? What does the expert suggest as a way to mitigate sun glare? So he was talking about mitigating the risk in general to you guys, right? And let me tell you, I hope all your parents, but I know at least some of your parents have you in this course because they want to mitigate the risk to yourselves, okay? They recognize the risk that they take every day when they drive. They want to mitigate the risk to you. How do they do that? They put you in a course like this so you can become more informed. You can get more structured experience as a driver, okay? They do stuff like they buy you a really good car with those sensors we just looked at, ways of mitigating the risk to you. Okay. They also, so it goes hand in hand with this, buying you a quality pair of sunglasses that are going to reduce that impairment that arises out of sun glare. Okay. What does what is a mistake that the expert mentions regarding pedestrians? Pedestrians think because they see you that you can see them. So we're talking, and that's not the case. So we're talking about fatalities on those perfect days, right? We're not talking about, those days when it's snowy and it's high risk because of bad, conditions on the road. We're talking about beautiful conditions outside and it actually causing a higher risk. Which group of Americans is most vulnerable to traffic fatalities? It is you guys. It is teens. Okay. And what is the most dangerous thing that the average person will do in his or her life? It's drive. And they do it every single day. Okay. We're going to stop here with part 1 and we will continue with part 2 after this. Remember, if you have a chance, thank a veteran for his or her service and remember, drive safely.